Hi, Dennis. How are you today?
I'm
Dennis
good.
Atwood. Welcome to my show.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah. Dennis is retired from Northeast Utilities.
Well, actually, it's Dominion.
Oh,
at this
Dominion.
point. Started
Okay.
off with Northeast Utilities, and then Dominion bought Millstone, and so it's retired from both. Actually.
Okay. You have a degree in history.
I do. I have a teaching degree in history.
And you became a certified teacher.
I did.
But you said you didn't really teach in that capacity, but I think you're doing a lot of instruction right now.
I found a way to make myself a teacher, or to do the job. So, having been involved in training professionally, so.
And the thing that we really want to dive into today, do a deep dive, I think, is your certified safety officer and a former police officer.
That's correct.
But your passion, if I could say or ask, might be the fire instruction and the firefighting that you've done.
Yes, that is my passion.
Okay. Can we dive into that? Tell me
Sure
about
can.
it. How did you get started?
Well, I got started when I was a little kid. I had an uncle that used to take me to the fire station. It was in my grandmother's town in northern New Jersey, and I was just mesmerized by it. It just captivated me.
How old were you?
I was probably about 5 or 6.
Okay, just a little guy,
yeah,
kindergarten,
little
first
guy,
grade,
and that kind of caught my eye. He was also a police officer.
This is your uncle.
This is my
your
uncle.
mom's brother.
Yes, my mother's brother.
Okay.
And I had another uncle who was also married to. He was a uncle-in-law, if you will. He was married to one of my aunts.
Sure.
And he was a police officer. So there was a lot of influence from the police side of it as far as sparking my interest, and I thought it was really neat. And the other one, I used to get to ride around in the patrol car with him.
As a little guy in the front seat.
Oh yeah.
In the front seat with all of the.
Oh yeah, everything. It was great. It was a lot of fun. So that sparked my interest. I always had the interest, and I joined the junior auxiliary in Niantic when I was 15. Unfortunately, about the time I discovered my more serious interest in firefighting, I also discovered girls. So the girls won out, and I sort of walked away from the fire service at that point.
But it still was something that was impressionable on you
yes,
as an
very
early
much so.
experience. And
Yeah.
probably, unfortunately, at that time, there weren't a lot of young women joining the.
There weren't.
Joining the firefighters.
Yeah, there weren't any. There weren't any, as a matter of fact. There were a few women that were members, but they primarily operated on the ambulance side. There was still an awful lot of prejudice from the standpoint of women firefighters.
Well, it's a rigorous job.
It is.
I think we typically like to think or say that our women should be more protected, even though women can be very strong. But for one thing, the physical demands of being a firefighter. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, it used to be when I joined the fire department in 1975, there was no official State of Connecticut Fire Academy. There were fire schools, and there were regional schools, so we'd mostly go to Willimantic, where they had a fire school, if you wanted some advanced training. But other than that, it was basically an in-house training program. So you had instructors that were with the fire department. A lot of times they were just certified by the fire department. There was no real state certification per se. And you learned how to be a firefighter through that. So when I first joined, it was like, maybe about a 2-3 month program. And I was all set to go.
Well, physically, I'm just talking about, though, you have to be able to lift, 40, 50, 60 pounds?
Oh, easily. Your gear alone weighs about 50 pounds when you put it on.
So put 50 extra pounds on you.
Then you put a self-contained breathing apparatus on.
How much does that weigh?
That's probably about 20 pounds. They're lighter now than they used to be because they're made out of a composite material.
And then you have to be able to climb
stairs,
go up ladders.
Yep, use a hose line.
Open the hoses, reel out the hoses.
Yeah, it's physically challenging.
How do you stay, well, this could be a question for later on in our show, but how do you stay fit? How do you stay?
Well, that's an interesting question because I've always been a runner, actually a jogger. I'm not a runner, but I've always jogged. I've been doing it ever since I got out of college. And so I've always done that. So from a cardio perspective, I've done pretty well. I was fortunate that when I worked with Northeast Utilities and then again with Dominion, we had a fitness center that had some excellent weight machines. So I always, 3 days a week,
good for you.
I would get over there at lunchtime, put my weightlifting into it, and I didn't smoke or anything like that. So I was in pretty good physical shape.
Good.
What I found is that there is a time from a physical perspective, and it has to do with age,
Of course.
that your body lets you know in no uncertain terms you can't do this anymore.
It's demanding. It's
Yeah,
physically
yes,
demanding
very
at one
demanding.
level.
And one of the things that I found that my body can't do very well is shed heat. So once I get overheated, then, you know, it starts to have physical effects on me. And it's just a matter of a 70-year-old body saying that, you know, I know your mind says you want to do it, but the body says, you know, you're pushing too hard.
So the garb is not just heavy, but it absorbs the heat.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the heat, it doesn't permeate, doesn't breathe.
It doesn't, no,
Right.
because there's vapor barriers built into it to protect against airborne things that could, you know, be absorbed through the skin and everything. So it doesn't breathe. And
So you're wearing a mask,
yep,
a helmet.
you got a mask on, helmet, you got a hood
Right.
over the mask, you got all your gear on, you got gloves on, you've got either strong leather boots that are designed specifically for firefighting or rubber boots, and then add to that the physical requirements of what you're doing.
So you stay healthy by exercising 3 times a week, minimum 3 times a week. What does the average firefighter do you think? Is that part of the program to help them?
I mean, every firefighter knows that to be proficient and really at the optimum point of their ability to perform, they need to stay in shape and they need to be physically fit. Unfortunately, with the exception of some organized, I don't want to say organized, but some career fire departments, usually larger city fire departments, they'll have an annual agility test that they have to pass. Not so much in this area. You have to pass a somewhat rigorous test to be certified to become a firefighter, and it's a standard one that's offered by the Fire Academy, and that's pretty vigorous. But it's a kind of a situation where, as you're a young person, you're in good physical shape. If there's no incentive in the firehouse to keep doing that, most of the time, by and large, it's been my experience that not many firefighters do a whole lot to keep their cardio up.
And just body strength as well.
Yeah.
It isn't just your cardio, it's
no,
your
it's
strength.
True. It's true.
Your agility, your flexibility, because you're going in under precarious places and positions and situations.
Yeah, you're going to 0 to 60 in 2 minutes.
Wow,
I mean,
the adrenaline?
Yes, the adrenaline's there, so that's something that saps your strength to begin with. The other thing is that the physical demands of it, there's a lot of physicality in firefighting. Then you throw in the additional heat associated with the fire itself, and it's easy to become dehydrated really quick, and if you're not in good physical condition, you're not going to be able to exert yourself for very long.
Well, and that would probably explain a little bit about your schedule, because your schedules are a little bit odd, by my opinion, by my life experience. Not judging you by any means at all, but just saying.
But it is. It usually.
It's a couple days on.
Yeah, usually there's like a 24 on and then a 48 off, which is a pretty good shift. So you've 24. You get let's say you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, or you leave the night shift, or the previous 24-hour shift, and you stay until 6 in the morning. So you're on a 24, you're there, so you sleep there, you eat there, and then you get 2 days off. Now, not everyone is like that. There are some fire departments, the career guys that we have in the Niantic-Flanders Fire Department, at this point, they just work day shift. Okay. And then the volunteers will cover the, I have to correct that, but they'll cover the evening shifts, and then actually there are 2 career firefighters that were just hired to cover the 11 to 7 type of a thing, where in the middle of the night there's somebody that can get to the ambulance call. It's primarily for EMS, because that's what we're most occupied with these days, is emergency medical services. So you have those people that would that are there, stationed there, one in Flanders, one in Niantic, that can complete the crew necessary. It's a 2-person crew necessary to operate the ambulance. And
how many firefighters do you need all the time?
Well, it depends. I think the latest NFPA suggestion, which is the NFPA, National Fire Protection Agency, Association, says that there should be a staffing level of, I think it's 18 or 19 per shift.
Per shift?
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
Wow.
But it requires a lot of people to be able to do the work because there are a variety of jobs that have to be done. You have to have some search and rescue people. There's got to be people that are going to be involved in the fire suppression. Then there's going to be people that are probably primarily concerned with search and rescue. So now, not many, not everybody has that level of staffing. That's a recommended level.
Is that for a certain size city, or because
that's what they think is a minimal appropriate staffing level. The last time I looked, anyway, for just any firefighting organization in the United States.
So how many people are on the truck when the truck goes out?
It varies because what you have now is there are 9 career firefighters in East Lyme, and that breaks down to that you've got 2 that work an 11 to 7. I'm not sure exactly what the hours are, but they're the overnight folks. So there's 1 in Flanders and there's 1 in Niantic. And then during the night shift, there is, which is staffed primarily by the volunteers or part-time, from the standpoint they can work part-time and they get paid for it. They will work the 5 to 11 or something like that, or 6 to midnight. I can't remember exactly what the hours are, but so they'll fill in there. And then the lion's share of the career firefighters are on days. So you've got, what do you got? They've got 9 firefighters now, so take 2 away from that. There's, so that's 6. I think there's 3 at each. There's 4 in Niantic. 1 is at Station 2 out there by the Lime Tavern,
right,
by Rocky Neck, and then there are 3 in Niantic, and then there's 3 in Flanders.
So we have 3 stations in town, actually.
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. Well, that's certainly demanding, and I'm thinking after the fire, or after you go out on call, whether it's a fire or EMT, that you don't know what you're going to be facing, and then the adrenaline and the...
Yeah, it's, I mean, even for me, at my age of 70, when I hear the tone go out for a working structure fire, I still get excited. I'm still like the Dalmatian dog that can't wait to jump into the passenger side of the seat next to the driver and go to the fire. I mean. Well,
what did you say to me? It's the best roller coaster ride in the world?
Yes, it is. It is. It's the best. It absolutely is. From my perspective, and I have another saying, is that if you ask me any time, I don't care what time of day or night it is, if you ask me where would I like to be right now, at this minute, my answer is always going to be, I'd like to be inside a burning building fighting a fire.
Wow.
That's not Disney World. Nothing comes up to that level of desire of what's most fulfilling for me and what's most fun and exciting and gives me a sense of accomplishment. That's it. I'll probably say that till the day I leave this earth.
And I think that could be on your gravestone.
Maybe it should. Yep. Yeah. Put me in a burning house.
But then you also said something like, "We don't want your house to burn."
There's another adage that said, "I don't want your house to burn, but if it does, I want to be there."
Absolutely.
So
well, you guys are heroes, and you realize that. I know you don't like the term, or you don't like it.
Yeah, we shy away from that.
But you are. You realize that. You don't want to admit it.
Yeah, it's something we're driven to.
It's a different kind of feeling, and it's a different purpose. But we had a fire when I was a kid. I think I might have mentioned that to you when I was on the phone. I was 12 years old, and just the sound of those sirens coming was just such a breath of relief for us.
The cavalry's on the way.
Yeah. And you saved 2 of my brothers. We lost one of my brothers, but you saved the firefighters there.
Did they really? They were able to save?
2 of them. Yes. Well, most of us got out of the fire through the front, out of the house through the front door, and just walked. The house was it had gone up in spontaneous combustion, but the house was just so filled with smoke.
Oh, the smoke is the killer.
And that's how my one brother lost his life. So we could just feel it. It was like the wall was melting. It was just I mean, you understand it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's horrific heat.
And I only experienced it that one time, and I can just feel it
you'll never
like
forget
it was
yesterday.
Though. Say it again?
You'll never forget it.
No,
it's a terrible thing to have a memory of, but yeah, in fact, we just lost Worcester, Massachusetts, just lost a lieutenant.
Oh.
I think yesterday was trapped
I'm sorry.
on the 3rd floor, and it happens. I mean, it doesn't happen usually to the point where people say, "I'm not doing to do this job." Every other day a fireman dies, but it's a hazard of the job, and firefighters accept that hazard.
Well, in California right now, what's going on in California with all the firefighters?
Horrible.
And you talk about, they would look at the shifts that we have in our town as luxurious by comparison, because they're working overtime. And I think that they were saying that they hadn't gotten a day off in maybe a week.
Around the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I need my rest. I don't know how people do it.
I mean,
everybody does.
You run on adrenaline until you can't run anymore.
There you go.
And then you literally collapse and sleep where you are usually. I mean, but that's particularly California is plagued by that. And it has a lot to do with the urban intrusion into areas that really probably shouldn't be built in.
Right, the shrubbery or the brush has come too close, or people have built, they want these
they build in fire zones, and then, that's the reason why they lose their homes.
Well, one thing good, right, we have smoke detectors now.
Excellent,
and we have the sprinkler system, because we just had a fire in our town on Sunday,
yes,
right?
Yes, we did. Had one at the IGA.
Right, right, and that was contained. So I think that we've gotten so much smarter, at least, because back when I was 12 years old, we didn't have
Nobody had
smoke
detector,
detectors,
no.
And there weren't sprinkler systems in anybody's houses or anything like that. So
I mean, there have been some significant progress from a scientific standpoint of smoke detectors, CO detectors, things like that, and I think most people have them, and hopefully when theirs goes off. I know we get calls all the time for detector activations where we send out an engine to investigate, and a lot of them are associated with alarm companies that they will call the fire station.
Well, and I'm just thinking gas too. If somebody smells gas, then people will call the fire department,
We had one not too long ago.
My daughter, you'll enjoy this story, she lives in Brooklyn now, but was living in New York City, and it was a 5-story walk-up, I believe, and the poor firefighter, what did you say, like 60 extra pounds
at
of
least,
stuff?
yeah.
So he walks up, I think I counted one time, 84 steps to the top floor of her apartment just to find that it was the smoke or the gas that was leaking.
Right, but that's a good thing to find.
Absolutely,
because all it needs
life,
is a spark,
sure.
or you can be poisoned by it just by the amount of gas that you're taking into your system that itself is toxic. So it's and all it needs is a spark. Right.
So it's just such a good thing. And then the other thing is that you guys are called out for emergency. I think because we have better protection now, we have the smoke detectors, we've got the sprinkler systems in commercial buildings. Now we have you doing another full task, which is emergency EMT work, right?
So there's the Flanders and Niantic Fire Department operate the ambulance service. It's the East Lyme Ambulance Association. And the fire departments operate the ambulance. So they basically own it, if you will. We don't have any outside agencies. Any help we need in the form of mutual aid usually comes from Waterford or in some cases Montville, if it's way up in the north end of town, or from Old Lyme. We operate 2 ambulances. There's a spare. And the lion's share of our calls is EMS, Emergency Medical Services.
Which I think is amazing, because I think you're not only saving houses, saving buildings, but you're saving lives through understanding the whole body and and removing people and getting them to somebody who has perhaps more information or more knowledge, not to say that you don't have a great amount, but to have that opportunity to get quickly to resuscitate the heart or give them oxygen so that they continue, or whatever you need to do. What are the typical things that you find that you're doing?
Well, East Lyme is becoming an older community.
It is.
Yes. So there are a lot of the EMS calls are associated with the types of medical conditions that an older person may have. People that have heart conditions, things like that, diabetes. Some of it, which it's kind of a conundrum for us, because some of it is literally that there are some folks that probably are living by themselves that really shouldn't be. So there's quite a few folks that fall in and I can't get up. They have their little emergency button that they push.
And that hooks
to
you.
That comes to the fire department. It comes for, a lift assist, as it's called. The fire department is called for that, and they, can lift the person up. But it doesn't fix the problem. The problem is literally that some of these people don't have a good mobility. In other words, it's, they may be able to walk all right, or they may trip and fall down any time. So, the real question then becomes is, are they able or should they be living on their own?
So then social services needs to get involved.
Yes,
and
it is.
Do you play a part in that with the fire department, or
well,
maybe
I mean, we
pass it off a little?
Yeah, it's not anything that that we overtly advocate, say, but it's something that we see.
Of course.
And in a lot of situations, some people, they don't have the wherewithal. I mean, going into a nursing home or an elder, community or that has somebody that can help you and stuff, it's pretty expensive.
It is expensive, and the quality of life isn't always as good.
Yeah, and people don't like to leave their own home.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't want to.
No.
You don't want to have to go someplace that isn't home. So it's a hard situation. We deal with it. There's a lot of with the aging population, there are a lot of older people that we deal with. The EMS, or emergency medical services, is 80%, if not more, of what the fire department deals with.
So I'm thinking in terms of you reaching out to young kids, how we could try to help to generate some interest that way. I'm thinking, what are all the life skills that kids would develop, or not even life skills, things that would prepare them for the work world that they would be facing if they were to start volunteering at the fire department?
Well, they can become EMTs, and I think the age is 18 that you actually have to be in order to be someone that actually goes in the back of the ambulance. I could be mistaken because I'm not involved in EMS anymore, but what it does is it gives them a sense of responsibility, a greater sense of responsibility from the standpoint of what they're responsible for, because, they're really responsible for doing things that are associated with dangerous situations and things that are really serious and important. The people that we do get usually are young folks that want to do it. Some of them do it because they want to just serve their community. Most of them do it because they have an interest in the fire service or in emergency medical services. So, they can go out and get their EMT certification, and some of them, it's a lot of we have juniors that start at the age of I believe it is 14, and they can stay in until they're 18, and then they would become a regular member if they're still interested. And, they get to do stuff on the fire ground. They can't do anything really dangerous.
But I would think that they would learn a lot about organization and
responsibility,
leadership,
yes.
and responsibility, and taking turns and sharing and respecting your elders, and some of those things that you just really need to get along, to have under your belt to get along well in life. And to be a good employee, and then down the road eventually to be a good employer for different people.
That's true.
And I'm thinking, if it's that thrilling, and some of our kids just want to thrill.
Right.
And they don't know how to get a good, safe thrill, that this would be a good place or a place that they could start to.
It's that not everybody wants to be a firefighter, but some people, do want to do something that helps their fellow citizens. And they have that sense of responsibility. It's in their personality, and maybe they go on to become nurses or doctors or maybe firefighters or whatever. But when they come in as junior members, that kind of whets their appetite. And some stay and some don't.
And not everybody needs to stay, but I'm thinking the walk away from that experience would be just such an enlightening experience, and really helping them to become.
It usually is something that ends up very good, or something that, no, this isn't for me at all. And it's just, just part of what it is.
And I think that's fine. I think that for every job I've volunteered, every job I've ever done, I've walked away with some better understanding of myself or other people, or skills that I couldn't have gotten someplace else. So I think that's all really good.
If you try to find the value in it, even if it's just the learning experience of, well, I'm not doing that again.
Right, exactly.
I realize I'm not any good at this, something like that. But we encourage folks. The thing that is hard, and I think you wanted to talk about this, is the requirements and certifications that are required now, mainly from a liability perspective, are so time-consuming. That's what keeps the 20-year-olds, the 25-year-olds, the 30-year-olds from getting involved, because there's levels of certification that can take up to 6 months. And a lot of people don't have that amount of time to be able to devote to it to meet the requirements that are really necessary to act as a firefighter. Didn't used to be that way years ago.
No.
But we're better for it.
No. What about the community that happens when you get into the fire department? What's that like?
You mean exactly what a fire department community is like?
Well, I've never done it, so I don't know. Like, if I was maybe to go incognito, like if I was the little mouse on the wall that went inside of the firehouse.
There is a huge amount of joking and poking fun at each other. It's unbelievable, and I find that in every firehouse I've ever gone to. You know, everybody has their own personality, and you know, somebody will pick something out about it, and you know, so people get nicknames and everything.
Everybody
like that.
has a nickname, right?
Yeah, everybody really does. It really does, and you know, there's just there's an awful lot of laughter.
And the cooking.
Cooking's
Firefighters
good, yeah.
are famous for being good cooks.
We've got some good folks. We have the folks in the volunteer departments are usually hold a position called steward.
Okay.
They're the ones that are in charge of providing refreshments during meetings and you know, cooking and stuff. A lot of firefighters are just good cooks anyway, though. And so yeah, it's a family. It feels like a family, and it's a brotherhood and sisterhood. And if you're thin-skinned, it's not probably you're probably not going to want to be there.
It's not a good place to be.
Yeah, I mean
you have to be able to roll with it.
You have to, you know, and I mean it's not always politically correct. But it's not something where, you know, there's certainly a good amount of respect for each other. We are sensitive to being good people and not, you know.
I get it. I was one of 9 kids. I don't know if I told you that or not.
Yes.
So I had 6 older brothers, and their favorite thing to do was to see if they could make me mad or to see if they could make me cry. And people, if they give me a little bit of teasing, I'm like, you know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's definitely a sensitivity to making sure nobody goes too far.
Absolutely.
So there definitely is that, you know, and there are times when, you know, things get brought up to the chief.
And you need to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
if you know, somebody.
or, you know, make sure you understand that with this individual, you crossed the line.
Right.
It's different with everybody,
right.
You know, but everybody tries to, I think, stay pretty much on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, we just have a couple of minutes left. So what is something that you would like to share that people should know about you or your work as a firefighter? What would your takeaway be? How do you want to be remembered after this is all for your life's generosity of giving to so many people?
Well, I look at it as it's selfish. It's selfish because it's so rewarding to me. Although it does, as a byproduct, give hope and literally save some people as a result of doing that. But it's just something that I'm very fortunate to be interested in and have been able to do it. And you know, I'll do whatever I can in whatever capacity I can until, you know, I'm ready to go to that big fire station in the sky.
Well, thank you so much. And do you get to ride down fire poles? Do they still exist?
They still do exist, but OSHA has a way of making sure that new fire stations don't have poles because they're not really considered to be safe. But I can tell you that stations that have poles, the ones that I've seen, they still use them. And it's great fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Oh, it is. It's, you know.
Well, you guys do great work. You do Touch a Truck. You do outreach all the time.
Yep.
I don't think any full Monty kinds of shows that you have going or anything like that, but.
You know, it's the Touch a Truck is the big one. We do the fire prevention one with the schools when it's Fire Prevention Week. And it's just, you know, it's a situation of we certainly encourage people to join if they can, but be aware of the fact that there's a fair amount of time that has to be put in for you to be a good provider of services to the department.
But it's a good service, good work. Thank you so much for you doing and being what you are and who you are and volunteering for our community.
It's my pleasure. One last thing I'll leave you with.
Yes.
It's the most fun you can have without getting arrested.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and I'm fortunate to be involved in it.